Okay, real talk. You're standing in a coffee shop. The barista hands you back $4.75 in change, and something in your brain goes, just toss it in the tip jar. No hesitation. Done. But then that same week, your bank app reminds you to set up a $5 automatic savings transfer, and you close the notification. You'll do it later. Except later never comes. That's not laziness. That's not stupidity. That's your brain working exactly the way evolution built it, and it is quietly wrecking your finances in a way that no budgeting app is going to fix. My name is Ben, and I spend way too much time thinking about the psychology behind why we make terrible decisions with small amounts of money. If you're someone who feels like they understand money in theory, but somehow keeps watching it disappear in practice, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. So here's the thing. Most financial content focuses on the math of money. And yeah, the math matters, but the math is actually the easy part. The hard part, the part nobody really talks about, is why small saving feels emotionally heavier than large saving. Let me set the scene. Imagine someone offers you a choice. You can save $500 in one lump sum, or you can save $5 every day for 100 days. Same outcome, right? $500 either way. Mathematically identical. But here's what most people don't realize. Those two scenarios live in completely different parts of your brain. One feels like a decision you make once. The other feels like a decision you have to survive 100 times. And that repetition, that is where people fall apart. There's a concept in behavioral economics called decision fatigue. The more choices you have to make, even tiny insignificant ones, the worse your judgment gets over time. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who faced repeated small decisions made significantly poorer choices later in the day than those who made one large consolidated decision. Your willpower isn't infinite, it's a resource, and $5 decisions are expensive in terms of mental energy, even when they're cheap in dollars. Now you might be thinking, okay, Ben, so just automate it, problem solved. And yes, automation helps, but it doesn't explain the root of why this happens. And if you don't understand the root, you'll find a way to self-sabotage even the automated version. Look, there's something called proportional thinking, or in fancier terms, the Weber-Fechner principle applied to money. Basically, our brains don't evaluate numbers in absolute terms. We evaluate them relative to context. So $5 out of a $20 dinner feels like 25% of something. That feels significant. But $500 out of a $40,000 salary, that feels like a rounding error. Even though $500 is 100 times larger, it feels smaller because the reference point shifts. This is where it gets really interesting. A researcher named Richard Thaler, who literally won a Nobel Prize for this stuff, found that people treat money differently depending on what he called mental accounts. We don't see money as one big fungible pool. We categorize it: grocery money, fun money, serious money. And small, everyday spending lives in a completely different mental account than big financial decisions. So when you're deciding whether to skip your morning coffee, you're not comparing it to your retirement savings. You're comparing it to how tired you are and whether you deserve a treat today. Completely different emotional weight class. Here's a concrete example. Say you spend $6 on coffee 5 days a week. That's $30 a week, $120 a month, $1,440 a year. Now, if someone said to you, hey, do you want to put $1,440 more into your savings this year? Most people would say yes, absolutely. But ask those same people to skip the coffee each morning. Suddenly, it's an identity crisis. Because it's not about the money anymore. It's about 365 individual moments of feeling like you're denying yourself something. The big saving feels like a transaction. The small saving feels like punishment. And your brain is wired to avoid punishment way more aggressively than it pursues reward. That's loss aversion, and it shows up in every tiny financial decision you don't even realize you're making. So what do you actually do with this? A few things. First, stop fighting your brain and start working with it. Instead of thinking about saving $5 a day, reframe it as a single monthly decision. I'm setting aside $150 this month. Done. One decision, one moment of willpower spent. Your brain handles that much better than 30 individual micro-negotiations. Second, attach your small savings to something that already feels significant. Link a $10 transfer to every paycheck deposit, not to every day. The trigger is already emotionally weighted. Payday matters. That emotional gravity carries the savings habit with it. Third, and this one matters, stop treating every small financial decision as a moral test of your character. You're not a bad person because you bought the snack. You're a human with a brain that wasn't designed for modern financial systems. The awareness alone starts to shift the behavior over time. The gap between knowing what to do with money and actually doing it isn't an information problem, it's a psychology problem. And now that you can see the mechanism, the proportional thinking, the decision fatigue, the mental accounts, you have something most people walking around out there don't have, a map of your own blind spots. That's genuinely where change starts, not with a bigger income, not with a perfect budget, with understanding why the small stuff is hard and refusing to let that hardness trick you into thinking you're not capable. If this gave you even one thing to think about differently, drop it in the comments. I read them all, and I'll see you in the next one.